the WrestleMania Minutes on Down the Aisle Wrestling Podcast with Robbie Mack and Kevin Laramie. Here's Kevin Laramie. WrestleMania 11, Rob, in Hartford Civic Center, Connecticut.
Kevin, we're going back to in the Wayback Machine. We're going back to 1995, and you and I, as we've reported several times on our podcast, and especially when we reviewed the 1995 SummerSlam, the 1995 was not a great year for the WWF.
No, but it's one of those first years where we do remember. We were vividly remember being there and being a fan at that time. And it was 11, 12, 13, 14. Those are the WrestleMania. Well, I was the biggest fan, I can say. It's the beginning of the Attitude Era. This is, 2-3 years before the dubbed Attitude Era. But that's when I was really into it. And WrestleMania 11, I might not remember the whole thing. It was maybe at the beginning of me falling in love with wrestling for the second time. Because when I was a kid, I fell in love with it. Then I grew up. At that time was the second coming of wrestling in my life.
For me, Kevin, I never really fell out of love with wrestling. I mean, I've been mad at it, but I've never fallen out of love with it. I've never even broke up.
It's more of not being able to watch it and then just phase out than anything else when you're that young.
Yeah, I get that. 100%. Yeah, for me, I mean, I stuck with wrestling in WWE. I was watching WCW too at the time in 1995. But yeah, I stuck with the WWF through this horrible, horrible period. And looking back on it, I would have been in grade 7. And now when we kind of get into these WrestleManias, not only do I have, and I'll kind of share it on our WrestleMania 12 podcast, but not only have memories of the event itself, I also have personal memories that I kind of go along with it. You know what I mean? Like I remember stuff from my 7th grade year and little stuff like that.
All right, WrestleMania 11, like we were saying, in Hartford, Connecticut, Hartford Civic Center, where the Hartford Whalers used to play. The same time or around that time they left the league. Well, 1985, April 2nd was the date of the show. And the main event was Lawrence Taylor. Yes, you heard right. The former NFL linebacker Lawrence Taylor, who faced Bam Bam Bigelow after an argument that took place at the Royal Rumble months prior. And it was all built for both of them to go at it in the main event. But between you and me, that match that Michaels had with Diesel should have been really more important, and it should have been the match where Diesel actually was Brett, right? It was Brett and Diesel.
No, it was Diesel and Shawn Michaels.
Oh, I had it right. Well, I knew I had it right. My memory served me right correctly. Sometimes you have to trust yourself with your memory.
Exactly. Go with your gut.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that it was a time where Diesel was the champion. But he was never really pushed that much as a champion. One of the reasons why he wasn't that much over as a champion, Rob.
Well, it's also the champion that when you think of this dark period in the WWF, Diesel's always the champion that comes to mind because he was the champion during said dark period. It's the main event, Kevin, and you're probably right. The Diesel-Shawn Michaels match should have went on last, but the amount of publicity and press that WWF got from the whole Lawrence Taylor thing. I mean, obviously they're going to put the thing on last. They really knew how to sell it. You know, I wasn't excited for the match, or I could have cared less. And Bam Bam Bigelow was probably a good guy to have in there with Lawrence Taylor because Bigelow was a good worker.
And he doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for that match.
100% he doesn't. And not only that, he doesn't get enough credit in general for being such a great worker from people. And maybe it's because
putting LT over.
Yeah, of course. And people, and that kind of, you don't want to say that defined Bam Bam Bigelow's career, but maybe
killed his WWF run.
Well, not only that, when he went to ECW, like there'd be chance of LT. So I'm thinking for our generation, it defined his WWF career.
Which is funny because one of the hype videos that he says during that match, one of those documentary videos, he says, "That match is not going to define my career. I'm not going to be known only for that match." Well, Big Bam, yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah, unfortunately he does. And like I said, especially for people of our generation, people older than us probably remember the Bam Bam Bigelow that wrestled in AWA and in the early years. Yeah, in the early years of WWF. So, but unfortunate for our generation, Bam Bam is the guy who lost to LT.
Before I ask you what was your favorite match in that pay-per-view, just two side notes. Did you notice how big Yokozuna and King Kong Bundy were?
Yeah, Yokozuna especially.
Wow.
King Kong Bundy's lost a lot of weight. If you've seen like recent pictures of him, he's really really slimmed down. He's still a bigger guy, but he's really really slimmed down. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but in
King Kong
'95 he
Bundy.
was bigger than he was in 1990.
Oh God, yeah, he was as wide as a house in fucking in this event.
In 1990 he was like athletic. He had some athleticism and had like skinny legs, so he looked like kind of athletic. In 1995, oh my God, he was so big.
Yeah, he looked like he was nicknamed the walking condominium, and looked like he swallowed a condominium at this event.
For breakfast.
Yes, maybe in a small apartment complex for lunch.
And
I
the
don't.
size of Yokozuna's leg and those red pants. Oh, Jesus, those were huge. Almost scary when he landed on Bart Gunn. It was actually not Bart Gunn. It was a young Billy Gunn, I meant to say. Was it Cowboys?
The Smoking
The
Guns.
Smoking Guns, yes. Where he got his name. Bart
Yeah,
Gunn.
this is kind of where you see the downfall of Yokozuna as far as letting himself go,
Yes.
because he wouldn't really rebound after this. Well, not weight wise. I mean, he still worked for another 2-3 years, I think. But yeah, he was just ballooning up.
What was your favorite match of that pay-per-view, Rob? WrestleMania 8.
Kevin, without
WrestleMania 11.
my favorite match, without a doubt, and it wasn't the best match of the night, and it's completely for personal reasons, is the tag team title
I knew
match
it.
that we just talked about, because it was the first title that Owen Hart ever won, and I'll never forget that night, how happy I was. And I remember how many times I watched that match, because I would tape them off of pay-per-view, and I remember how many times I would watch that match, especially that year, reliving when Owen Hart finally won his first tag team title. So yeah, it wasn't the best match, but it was definitely my favorite, and probably I'll even go to say it's one of my most memorable WWF matches ever.
Oh, wow. That's big. That's a big
And
statement there.
and obviously not from a work rate standpoint, just from like
Especially not.
just like a personal standpoint, right?
My favorite match of the show is going to surprise you is Double J Jeff Jarrett versus Razor Ramon for the championship. But the reason why is because it's a WrestleMania debut and a debut for the Roadie. Now back then, just the name Roadie, which became eventually Double J Jesse James, and eventually the Road Dogg Jesse James. So
Who knew, Kevin, that probably one of the biggest tag teams of all time were on this show, but they just were separate with Billy Gunn and the Roadie.
oh, what a mullet on Billy Gunn's head, accompanied by the mustache to go with it.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
All right, so we're one step closer to the next 3 WrestleMania, Rob, are probably one of the biggest 3 in history.
Absolutely. Yeah, they really defined an era, and it kind of kicks off with WrestleMania 12. They're not quite there yet, but it kicks off with WrestleMania 12. And I have a fun personal story from WrestleMania 12 once we get there, too. So
Well, the seed of the Attitude Era starts being planted in
very, very little.
1996, where we see it in WrestleMania 12.
You got it. Absolutely.
All right, talk to you soon, guys.
Peace out.